All right, Steven, take it away.
Oh crap! I wasn't ready for this. Hey guys, and welcome to.
My dog sighs like that, dude.
It's not an apology video. Hey guys, what's up?
That was perfect. That was a perfect start.
I want to apologize. Hey guys, last week we played a game of Commander where all of us played one of.
Oh, did we now?
Where we all played one of Steven's. We all played one of Steven's Commander decks, put them up against each other to celebrate his birthday that either just happened or is about to happen, depending on when this video comes out. And it was a pretty interesting game. We all got to play some decks that we've all got to play against. So it was kind of nice to be on the other end. And yeah, Steven's gonna lead us through some questions, hopefully, maybe.
Hopefully, maybe. Yes, indeed.
Oof.
Well, that's all the time we got for today. So basically I wanted to ask, what made you choose the decks of mine that you chose?
I chose Adrix and Nev, Twin Casters. Made me choose it. I've seen you play it a lot, and it seems fun, and I don't know, just I'm a big fan of getting to just do a lot of stuff on your turn, with my favorite deck being my Ishin deck, doubling attack triggers, get to double tokens. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just a fun idea for a deck, and I really wanted to try it out.
So I chose last, and by the time it was left, Tovolar was an option, this was an option, and what's the green one?
Ronus.
Yeah, so of those three, this one definitely was the most interesting to me, because Ronus, I like big green stompy, but I have decks like that I've had before, so...
Sure.
But Johto is really cool, so that's why I picked it.
Tribal can be fun, but it's not the strongest.
I have enough tribal decks of my own.
Yeah, I chose Shadrix because I've always thought that it was really cool. It's kind of group huggy, but like you're coming out ahead 90% of the time. So I even have it in my group hug deck. And I also just like that it's a pretty open-ended commander. Like there's a lot of different ways you can build it. So like either the first or second episode of our Magic Online series, which hopefully is out by now. That episode's out by now, but I am playing a Shadrix deck that was sent to me by a fan, and it's like a Voltron build. So I just think it's really cool that it is open-ended. You can build it a lot of different ways, but then even when it's on the battlefield, no matter what version you're playing, it's always going to play a little differently because you have to assess and choose different modes, and it's pretty cool.
So I chose this one because the first time that I saw Steven play it was like the first time any of us besides Preston had gotten to look at it.
In the Christmas
I wasn't shocked because Preston doesn't build bad decks. I just didn't expect it to pop off the way that it does. Like it just utilizes the creatures so well. Aristocrats has been something I wanted to build forever, but I never knew how to do it because I'm bad at like getting rid of my stuff. I like my stuff. I don't want it to go away. I want to keep it. I want to do stuff with it. But that's not what this is about. This is, you want to sacrifice all your stuff and kind of go through your deck. There's cards in here that, whenever, there's one enchantment creature that's in here that says whenever a land is put into your graveyard from anywhere, you gain 1 life. If I'm cycling through my deck with Baba Saga, I'm gaining a good amount of life. And then in the second time that you played it, oh god, I can't remember what
it was. Tiny Leaders episode.
Yeah,
Yep.
dude, annihilated. Absolutely brutal.
I didn't win.
So yeah, I was a big fan of it, and I like black green. Those are I like those colors a lot.
With my decks being possibly different play styles as what some of y'all are used to, the decks that I have. How do I want to word this? How is like the decks that I build differ from maybe the decks that you would typically build, or the way that I make the decks different than the way you would make the decks? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, you tend to lean a lot more towards like big creatures, which I've kind of outgrown that. I'm more into like, watch this instead of like I attack you. Like so that's obviously really different, but then also like I don't run nearly as many basic lands as you do. I run a lot
Nobody
more,
does.
I run a lot more duels. The fact that like this deck has, I mean, it having 40 lands is like debatably a good idea. I think if you had like a little bit more card draw in the deck, then maybe you don't need 40 lands. Like maybe you could run 1 or 2 less. But the fact that like, what is it? Like 25 of them are basic lands or
It's
something.
not them. It's like 14-10.
Whatever. It's a no. There's 14. There's 14 Yeah, so
Yeah,
24
it's
basics.
24.
That's a lot of basics. So that's the biggest thing as far as like a deck building thing. I know this is mostly an upgraded precon for the most part, so like you've only touched the land base so much, but like for me, the first thing that I like to do when I pick up a precon and start upgrading it is, well, first off, any cards that are just straight up bad, get those out of there, get something that's actually good. But the next thing I do is upgrade the land base so that I can more consistently cast my spells when I want to.
I mean, this is pretty close to how I think I'd build a Joda deck. I might put out a little more like staples and not quite as many of the big creatures I don't think are quite as good. Because, Steven does really love big number, big number.
Big number, big number.
Big number makes Steven go, So, I'd probably change this a little bit, but it's pretty close to how I'd do it. Just because that's what you want to do with Joda is cheat out big stuff for cheap. Oh, I would improve the land base,
Yeah.
You
should
don't
not
like
have
all
guild
the
gates.
You don't like all the guild gates?
No.
But he does have mazes in.
I had the Mazes
care.
and Win combo on Rainbow Week.
Yeah,
That's how I
episode-
won.
it all
Yeah, but
blurs
you should
together.
do that with a deck that's better built around it.
Yeah.
Did you guys have anything else to
Any
add?
comments?
Well, I mean, Preston built this deck. Yeah, you hadn't changed anything to it, have you?
Very few things. There's like a couple creatures. I did the land base a little bit. That was about it.
Oh, you took out the good lands and put in basics?
Yeah.
Damn.
No, there were even more basics than before.
I mean, I'll say this. I said this earlier off camera, but I think this Shadrix deck, it's kind of, well, Steven said this, it's his most Morgan deck. Because Morgan, your Kenrith deck, huge group hug deck.
Yeah.
This is like group hug, but not.
Yes.
It's not. I mean, in this game, you didn't get to really see how much damage it can do to everybody, because like everybody was focused on Tommy, and then it was me and Morgan focused on
Which
Preston.
I did kill Tommy. I did.
He
do
did.
That.
He did do that.
This
You murdered Tommy.
also like almost all the cards around this deck makes you lose life, and man, I will lose a lot of life to draw some cards. So it is a very me deck. Yeah.
It is a white-black deck.
Yeah.
They're brothers, so it's a good. This is a Steven Morgan deck, and so I thought it was cool that you got to play this one.
Yeah. Any other questions, or did you have anything to add to that?
I don't have much for this because I have built by far the fewest decks of anyone here. Because it's a Simic deck, it kind of does what Simic does best. Which I mean, I don't know.
Which
So
is
I mean,
everything.
a lot of things. Mana ramp and big creatures mostly.
What a Simic deck does is at the start of the game, you have your library. Alright, here's my battlefield.
There's Battlefield turn 4. I mean, it's just
What I've always, and this is just probably because I've only played Tatioba, is my only Simic deck, except for the Christmas episode when I played the one that you had made.
very fun deck. I still have that one. It's fun.
And even with that one too, you still have to sequence your plays right. Like it's not like just because you're playing a blue-green deck, you're automatically just guaranteed to win, because those decks tend to pop off based on who the commander is and what the deck does. You still have to sequence everything properly.
And this one in particular, because it's such a high power level, especially for our group and the rest of these decks, I became arch enemy very quickly without even trying.
Yeah,
I was literally just playing. I wasn't trying to pop
that's
up.
exactly
It
what
just-
happened the first time I played it on Upkeep.
That's what happens a
I was
lot
doing
with this
what
deck.
I was
when
just
we play
kind of
you.
starting to build stuff up, and they're like, "Hold up, let's take them out like now."
Well, that's what happens with this deck. Even when we played off camera with you, is that it's so strong and puts such a huge target on your back right off
we
the
just
bat.
played a game right before we filmed this, and I played that deck and I won.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just
So besides obviously the fixing mana not having as many basics, what other recommendations would you have for these decks?
Clarification: I'm not anti-basic lands.
I think
right?
you are.
Well, you should have duels, but what
I'm
you need to think about-
anti-24 basically.
Yeah, 24 in a 2-color deck is insane.
It's a lot.
What is more is you should have more duels, but try running duels that either a lot of the time are going to come in untapped, or when I cast the Knight of the White Orchid, I could have grabbed a non-basic plains, which would have helped fix the mana.
yeah, see.
There,
because I didn't think...
yeah, I mean there are I know you don't like to spend a lot of money on lands, but there are budget fetchable lands. So even just having some of those, and I'm not anti-basic lands, because basic lands, unless something really weird is happening, basic lands are always going to come in untapped. so you can use them right away. Whereas with duels, hopefully they're mostly going to come in on tap, but you don't know. The main thing I would say, different decks do this at different varying amounts, so this isn't like a across the board thing, but for this deck specifically, more card draw wouldn't hurt, because Shadrix does sometimes draw you a card, but sometimes you're going to have to give that mode to someone else.
Yep.
So it's not like my commander draws cards as clearly or as consistently as some other commanders that draw cards. So I would say that this deck probably needs a little bit more card draw just to make sure you can keep finding things to do, because at the beginning of the game I was getting flooded, and then at the end of the game I had no cards in hand, and when you've played this deck off camera, that tends to be kind of how it goes too.
You also need more removal, I think. You don't have a ton of removal in a lot of your decks.
I don't know how much removal you put in this deck, but it wasn't enough.
There's not a lot of removal in that deck.
Which is,
I know,
I kind of thought was surprising.
It's
for a
mostly
black-green
just
deck.
like lands and enchantment creatures. So I know that I want to make it have a lot more artifact creatures in the deck. Mm-hmm. When Preston said that he'd made it before, he wanted to do something different and more unique with enchantment creatures, but it'll be better with artifact creatures. Probably. I know that's something that I want to change about that deck, is put more artifact creatures in.
I honestly like I like the enchantment creatures direction, because like you're saying, it's probably more powerful with artifact creatures. Because artifact creatures typically do better things than enchantment creatures. I mean, Blightsteel Colossus, anybody?
Yeah.
Pretty good card.
Well, even just Solemn Simulacrum,
Seriously?
Yeah.
It's ETB, do something right away. When it dies, you draw a card. You sack it to Bubble Saga, it's helping you draw more cards. Well, and I will also say that since Paige moved, she had a Sithis deck, but now that she's moved, we don't really have like a dedicated enchantment deck in our playgroup anymore.
Miracle.
Well,
Kind of.
Miracle's only an
That's a pretty big asterisk.
It's only kind of an enchantment, deck. But yeah, I agree that the enchantment approach is pretty cool.
I wouldn't change that about it. I think it's a really cool and it's a unique approach. And it makes building the deck more challenging.
I feel like I don't have much room to talk on this because, again, I haven't built a lot of decks, so I don't know. I'm not super familiar with everything that's in this deck, and I don't know what, if anything, I would do differently. I mean, just based off of this one game I've played with it, I was kind of getting a little mana screwed. I missed a few land drops, and there didn't feel like there was a lot of ramp in there that I got. But again, that's just might have been my luck of I just wasn't getting the ramp. I just was.
I think that's,
after the first few turns, all I was getting was just big stuff, which is cool, but doesn't help me because I don't have the land to use it. But,
I think that's the case because half the games where Steven plays that deck, he ends up with like every land in his deck on the battlefield.
Exactly. So that's why I'm like
all 45 basic lands.
I think that is the only deck I have that has 40 basic land. Or not 40 basic.
Wait,
no, 40
oh my God.
land total. But it's a lot, but the average convert mana cost is like 4 something. And it's high.
Simic is allowed to have a lot of
but it's
that's
Simic,
fine.
so it gets away with it.
Well, if we all learned anything from this game, don't take the first 7 that are on the top without looking at them.
That's the whole takeaway from this, guys. When everyone chose their deck, no one chose the same deck. So my next question is, if you didn't have the deck that you chose, what would have been your second choice?
Mine would have been Joda.
I would have taken that for a spin myself once or twice.
Ronas for me.
What, the Bubble Saga?
Yeah.
Ronas for me. I've always wanted to, but I want to build a deck that's a mono of every color. So
I think I did too at some point.
Mono green would be cool.
Because I want
to do that.
I have the Necron's precon, but that doesn't count.
I
don't count that because it's precon, and I'm not gonna make any additions to it.
Really? Not at all?
I made one addition to it, which is I took one basic land out and I put in
a different basic land.
A better art basic land.
Which one is it called? Pay mana and tap it for however many swamps you will.
Cabal Stronghold.
Is that what it's called? Okay, whatever.
I think if you gave that precon a little bit more love, I would say that would probably be my next pick, just because I think it's cool. I love the Warhammer decks.
Yeah, those are really cool.
When we did the episode 2, was we played the Warhammer decks. I ended up buying 2 of them myself.
It's Cabal
and-
Stronghold. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think that those decks are sweet, and I think if you spend some time upgrading it, it would be a really awesome deck. And then the same thing kind of goes for your what's your partner deck called? Baral and Shabraz?
Bralin and Shabraz. I love that deck so much. It's a cool idea, and like it's really fun playing with the deck. You're like, this is fun, but then it's like,
I never win.
I've never won playing that deck, but I might bring it back for
the next episode.
Yeah, for Freedom Week because it's red, white, blue. So
yeah,
for
the Friday of 4th of July, we will have a Freedom episode where everyone will just play whatever the heck they want to play. Because
I ain't gonna win that game.
Because this is America.
America.
I'm specifically looking at it from the lens of we already know what decks we're playing in what games for season 2, and I have a lot more decks than what could fit into a season, so I want to play specifically a deck that won't fit into one of the normal episodes. So that's how I'm going about it. But yeah, we'll just play whatever the heck we want to play.
Is there a deck you wish one of us had picked that didn't get picked?
I think y'all had some good options. The only reason why I would say not Joda is because the power level is just, and just the budget that has gone into that deck is just so much higher. Yeah, it's just a lot higher. So like, I'm not surprised that it won. And honestly, I was wanting anyone but you to win because of that. Because Joda has, we've already seen it before. He has won one of the other Upkeep episodes. All the other decks, we haven't even seen Shadrix, and the other 2 hadn't won. I do think Ronas deserves a legit better chance because every time I've played it, like I think in regards of win percentage, I really do think that deck is actually the best of mine. Just playing casually with you guys. If I'm playing like Joda or Adrix and Nev and I pop off quickly, people are like, man, let's get him quickly. And then a lot of the time I end up getting out first. But like Ronas is like, it's like such a medium tier deck that it's like when it does really good, it does really good. And it usually doesn't do that bad. But like every time I've played it, you never see it do that well. Well, Andy just kicked off like way too
in Revenge Week. I did pop off real quick. And then on Budget Week you got Mana Screwed.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I like never get Mana Screwed in that deck.
Mono green, it's hard to get Mana Screwed in a mono green deck.
Yeah. So I feel like that deck has still never really seen its true potential. It's a great deck. I kind of wish someone chose it, but I'm really glad that Shadrix was chosen because I hadn't had a chance to pull it out for Upkeep yet.
Well, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Endstep, where we talk about the previous episode of Upkeep. I hope you enjoyed this series. We enjoyed doing it, and I hope it encourages you guys to do something similar. Maybe not talk for 20-30 minutes after your games, but talk about the power level of your games and your decks, and make sure that your play group are on the same page. We hope that this has been insightful, not only for understanding a little bit of the behind the scenes going on our channel, but also to help encourage you guys to make your play group a healthier environment. Make sure you're subscribed, like the video, share it with a friend, all that good stuff. If you somehow sat here for 20 minutes and haven't seen the game that we're talking about, you should probably go do that, because otherwise everything we just said probably didn't make any sense.
You're probably very confused.
Very confused.
I only watch the commentary videos personally. I'm not interested in the gameplay.
We will be back for Freedom Week coming out 4th of July-ish, whatever that Friday is around then, where all of us will be playing whatever we feel like, and who knows what's going to happen there. No specific theme, because America, freedom. And yeah, going to be fun. Make sure you subscribe so you see it when it comes out. That's all. Bye.
Bye.
Nope.